downloading the first image, which is the plate. So you want to click on it, download, and as we've been doing before, you want to drag and drop the image into Photoshop. Alright, so now that this is dropped, before I get too far into my project, I need to save it to my U drive and occasionally save just in case the internet crashes or whatever. So I'm going to go to File, Save As, and you want to title this with the period number first. So if you're in first period, you want to have a 1, or maybe you're in third period, 3. Your last name, then your first name, and then let's title it Sandwich. Alright, so I'm actually going to change the format to Photoshop and save it to my U drive. And if you don't have it yet already, I would definitely make a folder for this class. Alright, so that way while I'm working, I could hit Control S to save, or I could just go to File, Save, and keep working. So that way, when the computer crashes, I don't lose too much work. Alright, once you get your plate dropped, I'm going to proceed by clicking on the second image of the bread, download it. And here's something new. Previously, we'd always close out of an image and before we would drag a new one. Well, in this project, what you're going to be doing is you're going to be clicking and dragging and dropping an image on top of this image. So you're going to have multiple images in one image. Alright, so when you drop an image, you're going to see that it kind of looks like it's in transform mode. I can change the size, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. While I do that, to prevent my image from kind of going out of the correct proportion, I'm going to hold down the Shift button on my keyboard while I'm pulling out my image. And you'll see here as it keeps it into a perfect square, or the correct ratio for what it's supposed to be. So holding down Shift while you're pulling out and making your images larger or smaller keeps in the same ratio. Alright, so I'm done sizing my image. I'm now going to push Enter on my keyboard. If you don't hit Enter and you kind of stay in, let me drag that back over. If you stay in this transform mode and you try to do other things, it'll ask you to place the file, so I just want you want to place it and all of that stuff. So, alright. So let me actually proceed now. So I'm going to resize it, hold down Shift, and hit Enter to place the file, and right away you see you have this white background. So yesterday we went over the selection tools. I'm going to grab my magic wand over here because I want to use my magic wand to select these white pixels. So I'm going to click on the white background, and if I hit delete, here's what happens. It says, could not complete your request because the smart object is not directly editable. So here's what we got to do. In order to edit this image, we have to rasterize it. To do that, you want to go over to your image, right-click. Make sure you right-click, not on the actual image part of the layer. So here we have our layers palette. Right now you have 2 layers. I need to right-click and go up to Rasterize Layer. And you'll see here, before I did that, you'll see this little icon. That means that this image is a smart object and you cannot edit it. So you have to rasterize it. So right-click, Rasterize Layer. Now when I use my magic wand and I click on that white and have the white selected and I hit delete on my keyboard, it now allows me to edit it. So it is all good to go. It is rasterized. So all the images that you drag and drop into Photoshop, you have to make sure you rasterize it. Alright, so after you drop in your bread, you want to grab the lettuce. So I'm going to download the third image of the lettuce. And I'm going to go ahead and resize it, holding down Shift. Hit Enter. And I have to remember to move, before you move on, you have to rasterize your image because it has this little smart object icon. So right click, rasterize layer. All right, so the lettuce is a little bit more tricky than the bread. So if I click, notice how when I click with my magic wand, there's still parts of the white background that are still left. So I need to hold down Shift, which adds a little plus sign next to my magic wand, so I can add to my selection. So hold down Shift while you are clicking to add to your magic wand selection. When I'm all done, I'm going to hit delete, and all of the white background is gone. All right, so I'm going to click to deactivate my selection and move on. All right, the next image is the turkey slice. And this one, I'm going to show you how to fold a layer. So I'm going to go ahead, size my image, hit enter to place it, rasterize my layer, right click, rasterize, use my magic wand to select that white background, hit delete on my keyboard to delete it, and I'm going to select my move tool because I want to fold my turkey slice. So to do that, folding is actually a transform control. It's properly called warping. So to transform it, I'm going to hit Control T, and then I'm going to right click and go down to warp. When I do that, these little points pop up. So to give it an effect that I'm folding the meat in half, you want to drag the right points over to the left. So I'm dragging all these points over. When you're all done, you hit enter, and it's given the appearance that I folded my turkey slice. All right, I need 3 pieces. So to duplicate any layers, you want to click on the layer, right click, and duplicate layer. Hit OK, and you'll see now I have a copy. So again, right click, duplicate, OK, and move it over. So now I have 3 copies. The next step is I'm actually going to show you guys how to make brand new layers without dragging over an image. So here on our layers palette, you have these little icons here at the bottom. And the first one is the trash can. So if I hit the trash can, notice how whatever layer I have selected, it's going to delete it, which I do not want to do. The icon next to that looks kind of like a page turning. That's how you create a brand new layer. So I'm going to click that, and you'll see when I do that, layer 1 pops up. And there's not really anything on layer 1. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to click and drag this layer to make sure it's all the way at the top. And this layer I'm going to use to create mayonnaise for my sandwich. So to make mayonnaise, I'm actually going to use my paintbrush tool, which is down here on my toolbar. So I have it selected. You want to have, when you're using your paintbrush, so this is a whole new tool. Here's how the paintbrush works. If I click and paint, you see that it's like white paint. That's appropriate for mayonnaise. However, maybe you want to do a different color, and I'll show you that. You'll see that when we make ketchup, you'll be making red. But down here at the bottom, this first square here, that is the color of whatever you're going to be painting. So if I change a color, that'll be the color of my paint. I'm going to step backwards, Control-Alt-Z, and I want to make sure this top box, double click, is kind of a white color. All right. Another feature of the paintbrush is up here at the top, we have these different options. This button here, you can change, allows you to change the size of the paintbrush, the hardness. So if you have a 100% hardness, notice how hard edge my brush is. If you set the hardness down to say 0%, you're going to notice your hardness on your brush is very soft. For this one, I'm going to set my hardness to about 50%. And it's going to be kind of hard to get it there, but you can just type in 50. And I want to set my brush to 100 pixels. So 50% hardness, 100 pixel size. And you want to make sure you're painting on a whole new layer. So I'm painting on my mayonnaise. And Another thing with the layers palette is these little eyeballs here allow you to turn off layers temporarily. So that way I can kind of see what's going on. All right, next we want to add cheese. So I'm going to download my Swiss cheese image. Again, you want to hold Shift and resize your image. So it's kind of life size. Hit Enter. I'm going to use my magic wand tool, but before I do any selecting, you have to make sure you rasterize your image. So right click, rasterize layer. All right, another feature of the magic wand is, notice how my cheese has all these holes. There's actually a way where if I click here, I'd have to hold down Shift to add. But up here at the top, you have these options up here. If you uncheck contiguous, what it does is whatever you click, it's selecting all of the pixels that are that same color throughout the entire image. Whereas without contiguous, it only selects pixels that are attached to the pixel that you actually selected. So if you uncheck this, it will select all the white, which is a lot quicker for this piece of cheese. So I'm going to hit delete, Control D to deselect, and let's pretend that this piece of cheese is really thin. The layer palette has an opacity setting. So I'm actually going to set my opacity for my cheese to 75. And you'll see that when you do this, notice how the opacity changes to be a little bit more transparent. So it's going to be 75% because it's a really thin piece of cheese. So you can kind of see through it. All right, so after the cheese, let's go ahead and finish up the sandwich. So I feel like I missed a step. Nope. Okay. So that's it. So I'm actually going to duplicate my bottom bread layer. So the wheat bread layer down here, I'm going to make a copy. So right click, duplicate, and I'm going to drag that bread all the way to the top. You want to make sure, see where this is highlighting right up here? That's how you know it's going to drag to the right spot. So now I have my bread layer on top. And now I want to add 2 additional items from the internet. So I'm going to go to Google, make a new tab, and you want to add 2 additional items to your plate that's kind of like food-based. So let's say I can add an apple. So I'm going to image search, picture of an apple. And I would try to pick an image of an apple that wouldn't require a whole lot of, selecting. So I'm going to pick one of these ones with a white background. I'm going to right click, copy image, go to Photoshop, Control V, or edit, paste, to paste my image. It's clearly too big, so I'm going to hit Control T, hold Shift while I resize my image so that way I don't do all this craziness. I'm going to size my apple to be an appropriate size. Hit Enter. Use my magic wand to select that white background, hit delete. And then my second image, maybe I'll add a cookie. Right click, copy image, Control V as in vegetable to paste. You'll see, okay, so here's something new that we haven't come across yet. So you'll notice that on the internet, notice how this cookie had a white background? Whereas when I pasted it, it has a black background. So I'm going to go ahead and delete that because here's a nice little trick. This image is actually a PNG image. If you look at the background, it kind of looks checkerboard, which means it's a PNG. So if I right click, I want to save image as, and it doesn't matter where I save it because it's going to pop up down here. You'll see it says PNG. When I click and drag that to Photoshop, notice how the background's already gone. That's because a lot of times PNG images already have transparent backgrounds for web browsing. So that's kind of a nice accident. So if you ever run into PNG images, just save it to your computer and just drag it over instead of copying and pasting. All right, so now I have 2 additional images. They have good selections. I don't have all that white kind of around it. When you're all done, make sure you save it. And then you want to go to Classroom, and you want to open the task and upload it when you're all finished.